Alright, let's talk about a magic trick that nobody asked for, the disappearing paycheck. You know, you work hard, put in the hours, maybe even a few extra, and then, poof. A chunk of your earnings vanishes into thin air. It's not a glitch in the matrix, folks, it's wage theft, and it's surprisingly common in the US. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on how bosses, sometimes very cleverly, manage to pilfer from their own workers' pockets. Get ready for some eyebrow-raising math and perhaps a few relatable groans. So, what exactly constitutes wage theft? It's not just a fancy term for "my boss is cheap." It's any employer practice that denies workers the wages or benefits they've legally earned. Think of it as the inverse of finding a $20 bill in an old jacket pocket, but instead, it's a $20 bill inexplicably missing from your actual paycheck. This isn't about accidental errors, it's about systemic practices designed to minimize labor costs, often at your expense. It's an issue hiding in plain sight, affecting millions. In the United States, wage theft isn't just a minor annoyance, it's a hidden crisis. While we often hear about grand larceny, the quiet theft of wages can collectively amount to billions of dollars annually. It's often perpetrated by employers who exploit loopholes, leverage power imbalances, or simply hope nobody notices the missing cents, which quickly add up to significant dollars. This isn't about a rogue manager, it's a widespread issue impacting various industries, from retail and hospitality to construction and agriculture. It's payroll fraud, plain and simple. One of the most prolific culprits in the wage theft saga is unpaid overtime. It's like working an extra shift, only to find out your boss just forgot to pay you for the extra effort. Or, more accurately, actively chose not to. This often happens by misclassifying employees as exempt from overtime when they really aren't, or simply refusing to record all hours worked past 40. That extra hour here, an extra 30 minutes there, it all adds up. And your boss knows it. It's a classic way to steal hours without much paper trail. Then there's the fake timesheet con, a true masterclass in digital deception. This isn't just about fudging your lunch break by 5 minutes. We're talking about employers deliberately altering employee time records, shaving off minutes or even hours. Imagine clocking in at 8 a.m., but your timesheet magically says 8:15. Or you clock out at 6 p.m., but payroll records reflect 5:45. It's insidious because it happens behind the scenes, often unnoticed by the worker until their paycheck shows up late, leading to significant stolen wages. Another common tactic is forcing or encouraging employees to work off the clock. This is where you're performing job duties, but you're technically not on the clock, hence, no pay. Think about the restaurant worker asked to prep before their shift officially starts, or the retail employee tidying up after punching out. It's like being a ghost worker, you're there, you're working, but your hours don't exist on paper. This is a direct pathway to stolen wages, as your effort produces value, but you see none of the compensation. Ah, the lunch break. A sacred time, right? Not if your boss is in the business of wage theft. Some employers automatically deduct 30 minutes for a lunch break, even if the worker isn't actually relieved of all duties or is forced to work through it. Imagine trying to eat your sandwich while answering phones or serving customers. That's 30 minutes of unpaid work, every single day, disguised as a break. Over a year, that's a significant amount of money that magically evaporates from your annual earnings. It's a subtle but effective way to steal hours. Let's put some numbers to this. Imagine an employer with 300 workers. Now, let's say they decide that instead of paying for a full 30 days of work in a month, they'll only pay for 20. But the workers actually worked those 30 days. Let's assume an average daily wage of $133, for a $28,000 annual salary. That's 10 days of work per employee, per month, going completely unpaid. For one worker, that's $1,330 stolen. Now multiply that by 300 employees. That's a staggering $399,000 per month in stolen wages. Over a year, that's nearly $4.8 million. If they just did this for a few employees or for smaller amounts, it quickly becomes significant. An $80,000 problem is often just a small slice of a much larger pie of payroll fraud. The scenario of 300 workers paid for 30 days but only working 20 is a slight misdirection, because the real trick is the opposite: workers worked 30 days, but were only paid for 20. That's an intentional underpayment for a third of their labor. It's not a mistake, it's a deliberate choice to save on labor costs, disguised as an administrative error or company policy. This blatant form of stolen wages is a direct violation of labor laws and constitutes massive payroll fraud. This isn't just about a few dollars, it's about a systematic stripping of earned income from hundreds of families. Then comes the paycheck drama. You open that envelope, or check your direct deposit statement, and there it is, the glaring shortfall. It's a gut punch, right? You meticulously tracked your hours, you double-checked your math, but the number staring back at you just doesn't add up. This isn't just about losing money, it's about the betrayal of trust. It impacts your rent, your groceries, your ability to save. This is the tangible result of stolen wages, making life harder for thousands of individuals and families. The boss stole your hours, and now your wallet feels it. Sometimes, the theft is even more fundamental, simply paying below minimum wage. While most people assume this is illegal and doesn't happen, it absolutely does. Employers might pay employees a flat daily rate that, when divided by hours worked, falls below the federal or state minimum. Or they might make illegal deductions that bring the effective wage down. This often targets vulnerable populations who are less likely to know their rights or more afraid of retaliation. It's a foundational form of wage theft that undermines the entire concept of fair compensation. For those in service industries, tip theft is a particularly cruel form of stolen wages. This occurs when employers illegally withhold tips, make inappropriate deductions from tips, or force employees to share tips with managers or owners who aren't legally allowed to receive them. Imagine working tirelessly to provide excellent service, earning those tips through sheer effort, only for your boss to skim off the top. It's not just rude, it's often illegal. This directly hits the income of workers who rely heavily on tips to make a living, another form of clear payroll fraud. The independent contractor dodge is a classic. Employers misclassify regular employees as independent contractors to avoid paying benefits, overtime, and payroll taxes. It saves them a ton of money, but it strips workers of crucial protections and benefits. If your boss dictates your hours, provides your equipment, and controls how you do your job, you're probably an employee, not a contractor. This misclassification is a subtle but pervasive form of wage theft, essentially shifting the cost burden from the employer to the unsuspecting worker. Let's put the scale of U.S. wage theft into perspective. Research suggests that wage theft costs American workers billions of dollars annually. It's not just a few bad apples, it's a systemic issue. To give you an idea, some studies estimate that wage theft costs workers more than all other forms of theft combined, including bank robberies and shoplifting. Yes, your boss stealing a few minutes off your timesheet here and there can collectively amount to a grand larceny on a national scale. It's a shocking statistic, often overshadowed by more sensational headlines. So, who ultimately pays the price for this massive wage theft? Primarily, it's the workers themselves, often those in low-wage industries or immigrant communities, who are least able to absorb the financial hit and most vulnerable to exploitation. But it's also honest businesses that play by the rules, who are unfairly undercut by competitors engaging in illegal practices. And ultimately, society as a whole suffers, as stolen wages reduce consumer spending, increase poverty, and strain social safety nets. Everyone loses, except, of course, the unscrupulous employers making a quick buck. You might be wondering, if this is so illegal and widespread, why do bosses get away with it? Well, enforcement is tricky. Workers are often afraid of retaliation, losing their job, facing harassment, or even deportation if they're undocumented. There's also a lack of awareness about labor laws, and pursuing legal action can be daunting and expensive. Plus, regulatory bodies are often understaffed, meaning many violations simply go unnoticed or unaddressed. It creates a perfect storm where the risk for employers is low, and the potential reward is high. It's a vicious cycle of stolen wages. At the heart of wage theft is a fundamental power imbalance. Employers hold most of the cards, they control access to employment, wages, and often an employee's immigration status. This power dynamic makes it incredibly difficult for individual workers to challenge unfair practices or report violations without risking their livelihood. It's a classic David versus Goliath scenario, except David often doesn't even have a slingshot, let alone legal counsel. This asymmetry is what unscrupulous bosses exploit to steal hours and get away with payroll fraud. For many employers, especially those operating on thin margins, the calculation might be grimly pragmatic. Is the cost of full compliance higher than the risk of getting caught and the penalties involved? Unfortunately, for many, the answer leans towards exploitation. When fines are low, and the chances of being caught are even lower, it becomes a perverse incentive to engage in wage theft. It's a calculated risk assessment, where the boss decides your stolen wages are worth the gamble. This needs to change to deter widespread payroll fraud. So, how do you spot wage theft in action? Keep an eye out for some classic red flags. Are your hours consistently rounded down? Are you asked to do a little extra before or after clocking in /out? Does your payslip show automatic deductions you don't recognize or authorize? Are you classified as an independent contractor but treated like an employee? These are all flashing neon signs that your boss might be trying to steal hours. Pay attention to the details, your financial well-being depends on it. These are common indicators of fake clock-in practices and other forms of payroll fraud. The absolute best defense against wage theft is documentation. Keep meticulous records of every hour you work, every break you take, and every task you perform. Use an app, a notebook, a spreadsheet, anything that creates an independent log. If your employer uses a time clock system, take photos of your clock in and clock out times. Save all payslips, employment contracts, and any communication regarding your pay or hours. This evidence is your slingshot in that David versus Goliath fight. It's concrete proof against fake timesheets and stolen wages. Understanding your rights is crucial, and it can be a bit of a labyrinth. Federal laws, like the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, set baseline protections for minimum wage and overtime. However, many states have their own laws that offer even greater protections. For example, some states have higher minimum wages or stricter rules around meal breaks. It's vital to know which laws apply to you, federal, state, or even local ordinances. A quick online search for your state's labor department is a great starting point to arm yourself against stolen wages. So, you've done your homework, you've got your meticulously documented proof, and it's clear you're owed money. What's next? First, try to resolve it informally with your employer. Sometimes, it genuinely is an error. If that fails, or if you suspect deliberate wage theft, you can file a complaint with your state's Department of Labor or the Federal Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division. They investigate claims and can help recover stolen wages. You also have the option of pursuing a lawsuit, either individually or as part of a class action. Don't let your boss get away with payroll fraud. It's a very real and understandable fear, retaliation. Reporting wage theft can feel like putting a target on your back. Employers might cut your hours, transfer you, or even fire you. However, both federal and state laws prohibit retaliation against employees for exercising their labor rights. If you believe you've been retaliated against, you can file a separate complaint. While laws are in place, the practical reality can still be challenging. This is why having strong evidence and potentially legal support is so critical when facing a boss who stole hours. When many workers at the same company are experiencing similar forms of wage theft, a class action lawsuit can be incredibly powerful. It allows a large group of employees to sue their employer collectively, pooling resources and strengthening their case. This is often the most effective way to challenge systemic payroll fraud and recover significant stolen wages. It also sends a clear message to employers: you can't get away with stealing from dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of workers without consequences. Strength in numbers can turn the tide against even the most powerful bosses. From the employer's perspective, wage theft might seem like a quick win to cut costs. But it's a misguided strategy that can backfire spectacularly. Employee morale plummets, turnover rates skyrocket, and the company's reputation takes a nosedive. Not to mention the legal penalties if caught: back wages, liquidated damages, fines, and legal fees. What started as an attempt to save a few bucks can quickly snowball into a financial and public relations nightmare. It's penny-wise and pound-foolish, ultimately eroding trust and talent. Stolen wages always come at a higher cost in the long run. Financial penalties are one thing, but the reputational damage from wage theft can be even more devastating. In today's hyper-connected world, news of payroll fraud spreads like wildfire. Companies caught stealing from their workers face boycotts, difficulty attracting new talent, and a lasting stain on their brand. No amount of marketing can fix a reputation tarnished by exploiting your own employees. It's a long-term liability that far outweighs any short-term gains from stolen wages or fake timesheets. Trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to rebuild, even for the most charming boss. Beyond the legal and financial ramifications, there's a clear moral imperative here. Workers deserve to be paid fairly for their labor. It's a fundamental principle of justice and dignity. Wage theft isn't just a business dispute, it's a violation of human dignity. It undermines the very idea of fair work and honest compensation. Allowing bosses to steal hours unchecked creates a society where the powerful exploit the vulnerable. It's not just about recovering money, it's about upholding basic human rights and ensuring a just economy. It's about more than just numbers, it's about what's right. Despite its prevalence, wage theft remains under-enforced. The government agencies tasked with protecting workers often lack the resources and political will to effectively prosecute all cases. This creates significant enforcement gaps, allowing many employers to continue their practices without fear of repercussions. It's a systemic problem, where the structures meant to safeguard workers sometimes fall short, letting bosses get away with stolen wages and pervasive payroll fraud. Closing these gaps is crucial for creating a truly fair labor market. This is where collective action and advocacy groups play a vital role. Unions, worker centers, and legal aid organizations are often at the forefront of fighting wage theft, providing legal assistance, organizing workers, and lobbying for stronger protections. They offer a counterbalance to the power imbalance, giving individual workers a voice and a platform to seek justice. Supporting these organizations or even joining one can be a powerful way to protect yourself and your colleagues from employers who try to steal hours and engage in fake clock-in schemes. On a more optimistic note, technology is increasingly offering solutions to combat wage theft. Time tracking apps, digital payroll systems with transparent logging, and even blockchain-based systems could make it harder for employers to manipulate records. Imagine a system where your clock-in and clock-out times are immutable and instantly verifiable. While not a silver bullet, leveraging technology can empower workers with undeniable proof against fake timesheets and deliberate efforts to steal hours. It's about bringing transparency to a notoriously opaque process. Sometimes, wage theft isn't perpetrated by a cartoonishly evil villain, but by the friendly boss. The one who's like family or your buddy. They might ask you to help out by working off the clock because things are tight, or we're a team. This emotional manipulation makes it harder for workers to say no or report violations. It blurs the lines between professional and personal, making exploitation feel like a favor. Remember, your boss is still your boss, and you deserve to be paid for every minute you work, regardless of how friendly they are. Don't let perceived friendship lead to stolen wages. The long-term impact of wage theft on workers goes far beyond a single short paycheck. It can lead to chronic financial instability, stress, and even mental health issues. It erodes trust in employers and the economic system. For many, it means postponing dreams of homeownership, struggling to pay for education, or delaying retirement. These are not minor inconveniences, they are life-altering setbacks. Stolen wages don't just take money, they steal futures, creating a ripple effect that touches every aspect of a worker's life. The paycheck drama is just the beginning. It's important to distinguish between genuine payroll errors and deliberate wage theft. An accidental underpayment can be corrected. But when it's systemic, repeated, and involves tactics like fake timesheets, unpaid overtime, or off-the-clock demands, it moves squarely into the realm of intentional theft and payroll fraud. My boss, in this scenario, wasn't just forgetful about the 300 workers paid for 30 days but only worked 20, they were making a conscious business decision. The shift from accidental to intentional is where the true malice lies, and where legal action becomes absolutely necessary. Despite having laws against wage theft, the reality is that U.S. labor protections often fall short. Compared to some other developed nations, penalties can be less stringent and enforcement mechanisms are weaker. This disparity creates an environment where employers might perceive the risk as acceptable. A robust legal framework is only as good as its enforcement. Without stronger penalties and more dedicated resources, the problem of stolen wages and payroll fraud will persist, leaving millions of workers vulnerable to exploitation and making it easier for bosses to steal hours. So, what's the path towards justice? It requires a multi-pronged approach: stronger legislative protections, increased funding for enforcement agencies, greater worker awareness, and robust legal support for those affected. It also means holding employers accountable, not just with fines, but with public exposure and reputational consequences. Every step we take to highlight wage theft, to track every dollar my boss was stealing, contributes to a fairer system. This isn't just about individual recovery, it's about systemic change to protect all workers from stolen wages. Collecting and analyzing data on wage theft is critical. Just like tracking every dollar my boss was stealing, systematic data collection can reveal patterns, identify repeat offenders, and inform policy changes. When we can clearly demonstrate the scale and impact of payroll fraud, it becomes much harder for legislators and the public to ignore. The numbers don't lie, and they serve as undeniable evidence of a problem that needs urgent attention. Data is the weapon against ignorance and a powerful tool to recover stolen wages. As an employee, your role in combating wage theft is pivotal. Be informed, be vigilant, and don't be afraid to speak up, safely and strategically. Document everything, understand your rights, and seek help if you suspect you're a victim. You are not alone, and your voice matters. Every time a worker stands up for their earned wages, it helps chip away at the culture of exploitation and sends a clear message to bosses who steal hours: this practice will not be tolerated. Your awareness is the first line of defense against fake clock-in and stolen wages. So, we've walked through the murky waters of U.S. wage theft, from the outright deception of fake timesheets and unpaid overtime to the subtle manipulation of worker hours and the colossal scale of stolen wages. It's a systemic issue, often hidden, but with real, devastating impacts on millions. It's clear that "my boss was stealing" isn't just a disgruntled employee's rant, it's a documented reality. But awareness is the first step towards change. If you've ever experienced paycheck drama, or suspect your boss might be involved in payroll fraud, I hope this video has shed some light and empowered you to act. Your hard work deserves every single dollar it earns. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you experienced wage theft? What were the red flags? Share your stories and tips in the comments below. Let's build a community of informed workers. And if you found this deep dive valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe for more analysis, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next expose on economic justice. Stay vigilant, stay paid.